My name is Chris, and today we're going to take a good look at the Pro-Ject T1 turntable. Welcome to the Vinyl Attack. When speaking about quality sound and hi-fi, I've found that, online at least, people love to throw around specifications, measurements, and numbers as often as possible to add substance to a review, while more often than not, never giving any contextualization to these details. For instance, with almost every single review of the new KEF KC62 subwoofer, reviewers seem to be on the precipice of elation to tell you that this new sub could go as low as 11 hertz. 11! Yet, in every instance that I can remember of these reviews, not once did anyone think to tell you that humans can't even hear that low, let alone question why someone would make a product that can perform at such a frequency. Now, before you assume that I'm slighting other reviewers while trying to elevate myself in their stead, or slighting KEF for their speaker's performance, I can assure you that I'm not. I've made the very same mistakes in reviews past, and my goal here is to not only try and break myself of this all-too-common habit, but to make you aware that it exists so that you might take it into consideration when watching a review and start to recognize the questions you want to ask to get the information you're truly looking for. Why am I bringing this up now? Well, for one, I am challenging myself publicly to try and give the best reviews that I'm able. And for another, I'm trying to bring out the common theme that will be making itself known in this review, which is balance. From time to time, it seems that the hi-fi world gets in a rut with discussions about our hobby, and it can have a hard time digging itself out. We hyper-focus on a small set of details, for example, while letting the overall impression of a product or a system escape our field of view. Certainly, most of us like an exciting, lively, and accurate representation of the music we listen to, but sometimes I feel that we're so focused on exacting every last detail from a frequency range and a note that we miss the fact that sometimes that elevated area of performance doesn't blend as well with the rest of the sound, thus leaving us something that is fairly unbalanced. It's wonderful to have clear and exciting top-end details singing from the cartridge on our turntable, but if it comes at the cost of having a slightly washed out mid and boomy sounding bass, is it really worth it? Of course, only you can answer that individually, as in the end, you are the only one who has to be happy with the sound that you're hearing at home. But for me, I tend to lean towards balance when I'm able. In many instances, if a product excels at one or two areas but lacks in more than that, I really have to start to weigh my options on if that product is truly bringing me enough of what I want all around. And while you may be nodding your head in agreement with me, you're probably also asking yourself, where the hell is he going with this, and what about the turntable? A fine question, so let me offer an answer. Upon spending the better part of a month with the T1, perhaps the single best word I can use to describe this table is balanced. I bet you didn't see that coming. So that's it then, right? Review's over. The table is balanced, which is generally viewed as a good thing, and we can be on our way. Sure you can, but you'd be doing yourself a disservice. Let me offer some context of my single-word initial portrayal of this turntable, starting with price. For around $450, we're looking at what many would call the entry point to mid-level hi-fi. What does that mean? Well, not much other than I'd say it's a good price range to start looking at turntables at which you can have a safer assumption of increased performance. You've saved up some money, and you're ready to move on from the entry-level table that served you well, but just doesn't bring the quality and sound you're looking for. Shopping in the $400 range or above is usually a good starting point to see these improvements. This turntable is safely in that category, and it offers some excellent characteristics that will help bring you the improvement that you've been after. Working from the bottom up on this piece, it, like many other turntables I enjoy, has 3 feet. As stated in previous reviews and discussions, I love the stability of a 3-foot turntable and pretty much all hi-fi products with the tripod setup. It makes for much easier leveling, less points of contact for vibration to bleed through, and I just plain think it looks cool. Now, while the feet on this table aren't adjustable, they are isolated from the table fairly well with their slightly springy feel and felt pads on the bottom to help resist scratching on anything you might place it. Be a little mindful though that these felt pads that help scratch resistance can also make them a little slippery on harder slick surfaces. Connected to the feet, of course, is the plinth. The solid wood construction, which is CNC precision milled to assure that no errant gaps or holes exist for the best sonic resonance, come in 3 colors: gloss black, satin white, and the satin walnut that was shipped over to me for review. The fit and finish here are executed exceptionally well, and I found that the table fit right in beautifully no matter where I put it. The drive belt motor connects to an anti-resonant subplatter, of which I'm thankful that no belt relocation is necessary to change your record speed. You are easily able to go from 33 to 45 simply by pressing a button. Small details like this are the ones that make me happiest sometimes, as I'd rather spend time listening to records than fussing about with my turntable. Just around the corner from the speed select, you'll find the power switch. The blue LED indicator that lights up when powered on not only easily lets you know what speed the table is currently set, but it also is an immediate visual aid if you're anything like me, making your way out the door and overlooking a piece of gear that you might have left on. Moving further up, another quality upgrade from your standard table is the 8mm glass platter. It's a heavy, blast-textured piece of glass that reduces resonance, especially when paired with the included felt mat. Now, I know matte materials could be a video all on their own, but in my experience, the only difference between them really is the subtle sonic characteristics that each material brings. I had zero trouble with static here, but you also probably know that I treat each record before play with the D-Stat3, which eliminates static profoundly, if not entirely. You should also know from prior videos that there are several solutions available to help with static, both affordable and expensive alike. Pick the one that you like best and run with it. The felt mat isn't going to make anything worse. The included dust cover was easy to install and does what a dust cover should, even if it's a bit stiff to open at first. With a little time, however, the lid opens smoothly, and I quite like just how vertical it is when I open it up, as it gave me a sense of security that it wouldn't come crashing down uninvited. But here comes by far my favorite part of the machine, the tone arm. When this table was released just over 2 years ago, it boasted an all-new one-piece aluminum design that measured in at 8.6 inches or 218.5 millimeters. Why is this good? Well, the one-piece design makes the arm stiff and light, which helps with tracking, improve playback, and lower outside resonance. The connected tone arm lift and rest are all metal and simply feel fantastic in the hand as a bonus. They operate smoothly and just feel like they have a purpose. Of all the features and build quality on this table, it was clear to me that Pro-Ject put the most money into this arm, and rightfully so. We're all keenly aware of the importance of a quality cartridge on a turntable, but I think far too often the importance of a well-constructed tone arm is overlooked. It won't take long for you to see that this was time and money well invested. Attached to the end of this fine tone arm was the Ortophone OM5E moving magnet cartridge. While many of you might think of it as a cost-cutting measure, I was quite surprised at how well this pair matched up. The OM5 is a very light cartridge with a light tracking force as well. The lightweight and stiff tone arm helped it track very well right from the factory. That's right, you can take this out of the box, put a few pieces together, and start playing records immediately. I didn't adjust a thing and found that it was in good form and ready to go. I did check the tracking force that was set at the factory, and this cart was right about 1.6 grams. That's a bit lighter than the 1.8 to 2 grams we usually see, but with a recommended tracking force of 1.5 to 2 grams, I'd say this falls right in line. The performance I heard thereafter seemed to agree. As is customary, I took 3 records with which to test and set off to see what this table could do with them. My first pick was Nine Inch Nails' first release, Pretty Hate Machine. This album, while not a re-release, was also not a 180-gram audiophile pressing, and I wanted to see how that would compare being a thinner album on the T1 and not having an adjustable vertical tracking angle. Its natural raw sound, accompanied by a wealth of sonic variety and contrasting soothing keyboard work, is always a good test for sonic boundaries. The next record was the new compilation of John Coltrane's work mostly as a sideman in jazz bands, simply called Another Side of Coltrane. This 2-disc set sees his work with Sonny Rollins, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, and more, showcases abilities from a young and growing saxophonist to a seasoned professional set to embark on his own. It's an excellent Craft Recordings pressing, and I recommend it highly. Last up was one of Stravinsky's best-known pieces, Petrushka, as performed by the Boston Symphony. This Analog Productions release, using original master tapes and pressed at the prodigious quality record pressings, is just another one in the long line of superior releases from the pair. The breadth of instruments here always makes it a solid benchmark with which to listen and test. Normally, I would take a note of specific songs or compositions and point out small details and inflections that impressed me or fell flat, but I wasn't really here to review the cartridge as such. I was here to give my feelings on the turntable overall. Of course, I'm not going to leave you without a sonic impression of the Pro-Ject T1, so what did this thing sound like? You might have already guessed that my remark is balanced. After just having spent a good deal of time with a phono cartridge for review, settling into a new piece of kit is always going to have you making comparisons, even if you're not trying. The Ortophone OM5E at its meager price point of $70 isn't going to light the world on fire and cause every hi-fi shop in the world to run out of stock. However, it's also not a controversial cartridge that boosts certain frequencies too much or at the expense of other frequencies, and I think that's actually where it shines. It has a very nice, well-balanced sound that will engage you with its performance, but won't have you looking over the sonic presentation looking for its weak spots. I was quite impressed with how big this soundstage was, as it was much larger than I'd have thought, by far. It had good stereo separation and kept every instrument well balanced in its place throughout each song, composition, and recording. Trumpets were a bit more tempered than what I usually hear, but they also blended quite well with the saxophones and didn't steal as much of their thunder. The transients of cymbals across the recordings were less present and overall more soft, but didn't pull your ear when they came crashing and washing out the other instruments in nearby frequencies. I found that there was plenty of bass to be had, especially in the 9 Inch Nails release, but it wasn't overly boomy. There was punch and depth, and it just sat well in mix no matter what recording I had playing at the time. While this might sound fairly boring to some, there was actually a very pleasant feeling of comfort when using this table. I could give a record a quick treatment of static, place it on the mat, a little dusting if need be, and simply play it knowing that everything would sound good so I could simply sit back and relax and enjoy the music. The tone arm, once again, is a big part of this. I recently heard tables with the OM10 cartridge, which is one step up for what's included on the T1, and while sonically very similar, I didn't hear the ease of playback and overall balance that I did from the T1. It just worked, and the tone arm was a big reason why. But, as we know, there is no such thing as a perfect product, other than pizza maybe. So, what didn't I like about the Pro-Ject T1? Something I didn't know I'd have an issue with until it came up was the length of a power lead. The cord to this table is about a foot shorter than I'd like, and almost every other product that I've tested recently. With the table sitting on top of my hi-fi rack, which itself is only about a foot or so away from the wall plug, it was putting the power cord to the limits of its length. It didn't turn out to be a major issue, but I could see where someone might have more trouble than I did, and simply adding another foot to the cord would sort that right out. While the stiffness of the hinges did relax over time, it could be a source of minor frustration as the table did slide back several times when I tried to open the dust cover, no doubt their partner in crime being the very soft felt pads on the bottom of the non-adjustable feet. A little softer lid opening and adjustable feet would have been ideal, but again, not a deal breaker. Lastly, the cartridge. While I just spent the last several minutes telling you how balanced it is, and that's completely true, it suffered from a bit of inner groove distortion, especially in the upper mid-range frequencies. Thankfully, the table build and quality tone arm make this an excellent candidate for upgrades down the line, so you don't have to worry about it if you'd like to buy something new. So what's my overall takeaway here? This is a very polite sounding turntable that would be perfect for a first-time upgrade by someone who's looking for hassle-free setup and performance, or it would make an ideal table for a secondary hi-fi system in the house as it simply does its job without frustrating the user. The non-audiophile person in your life who simply likes to play some records would certainly be happy here. The Pro-Ject T1 is pleasant to listen to, it doesn't really lack in any area that will affect your enjoyment, and I find its overall feel to be comfortable and, again, well balanced. If these descriptions sound like a good fit for you, I'd say that at around $450, you might want to take a serious look at this turntable. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it in the comments below. And if you're looking for a t-shirt that says, "I'm an awesome hi-fi nut," you should check out the Vinyl Attack webpage. There's also a Patreon page if you're in a position to help the channel grow, and thank you all so very much for the support you've shown. I am in your debt, and I look forward to next time.